Are you or someone you know on the perimenopausal journey and starting to ask questions along the lines of, I'm noticing that exercise is different. What does my body actually need? Join me this week as I sit down with Alicia Jones, who is a fitness expert in the realm of perimenopause and exercise over 50. And we talk about the menopausal belly, how to exercise with your ever changing hormones, and so much more. This is an episode you won't want to miss. Hi, I'm Adrienne Irizarry. I'm an East Asian medicine practitioner who is passionate about women's health and helping women to live their best lives. My goal is to put you in the driver's seat of your health, offering holistic solutions for a symptom-free life. Statements made in this program are for educational purposes only and not intended as a substitution for medical consultation or advice. We do not claim to diagnose, treat, or cure any diseases. This podcast is inclusive and welcomes all gender identities. The focus of the program is on biological function, and we will use the term women throughout, but it is referencing physiological and social challenges for biology, not identity. Come as you are, I am happy you're here and welcome all performances of identity. I hope you find something helpful in this show. Welcome back to another episode of the Reproductive Rebel podcast. I am so excited to be joined today by Alicia Jones. She is a fitness and wellness expert for women over 50. And if you've been listening to the podcast, you know we've been talking a lot about perimenopause and menopause. So I'm so excited to have crossed paths with Alicia since this is her area of expertise. Welcome to the show, Alicia.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here and share all things about how to exercise and feel your healthiest and strongest with all of those fabulous hormone shifts. Yay.
Yes, and that is something I get a ton of questions about. So now you guys see why I just had to have her on the show. So before we get started, because I have tons of things that I could ask you about because I'm wicked excited and I want to know, and I know our listeners do too, let's share with our audience just a little bit about who you are, what you do, and what brought you to the work that you're doing.
Okay, well, you do know now I'm Alicia Jones. And again, thank you for having me. And since 2006, I have helped women over 50 achieve better strength, really transform their lives through health and wellness strategies, health and fitness strategies, and nutrition strategies. I have a degree in kinesiology, and I've been doing this since 2006. So it's been a long time now. I've been in a lot of publications, not to toot my own horn, but Shape Magazine, Very Well Fit, Alive Magazine, a whole bunch of different magazines. And I had a TV show on Rogers as well. And that was all about health and wellness. And yeah, so I'm really excited to be here and to talk to you about all things over 50.
Awesome. Well, I was so pumped about this conversation. And anybody who listens to the show, they're like, Adrienne, you're always pumped. And it's like, yes, it's because I feel so passionately about this topic. I have so many clients that come to me that are like trying to do the cardio hamster wheel in this age group because they start getting what they call the menopause belly, and they think calories in, calories out. I must run like a hamster on a wheel for hours on end in order to make it go away. And they're actually doing more harm than good. And so I was like, oh, I have an expert that can talk to people about this and not in my weather forecast Chinese medicine way that I tend to talk to people, but in a way that like really connects with a Western audience. So thank you so much for being on the show. Off camera, Alicia and I have talked pretty extensively. And I think this is going to be a multi-episode situation because we have so many things to talk about in this particular vein. But this phase of life poses some unique gifts and challenges for this age group. And it really is relearning what your body needs.
Yes, and I think it's also getting rid of past normalizations, if you will. So ideas that I think many of us, we grew up, even our generation, and I'm 45, I'm not 50 yet, but I have been working with this population and specifically the science side of things and what happens. But from a growing up standpoint, I mean, I'm sure you remember all of the magazines were like thin as in, be as
Yeah.
thin as you can, do more cardio, do the aerobics classes. For me, it was like a Tai Bo boxing with Billy
Yes.
something.
Billy
Yeah,
Blanks.
Billy Blanks. That was it. Yeah. And then there's the Jane Fondas and the Kathy Smiths. There's a whole bunch of cardio aerobic style that we've always been told to do, and a whole bunch of different diets that were like eat less, cut back on calories, watermelon diet, grapefruit diet, all of these different diet plans that were coming in that were all about restriction. So it's about not only as we enter into a new stage of life, understanding that the body has shifted, the formula for food and fitness has shifted, and we need to embrace that and live in harmony with our body where it is now. But it's also about letting go of those old beliefs. Like we have to starve ourselves. We have to do more and really push ourselves. If we're not feeling exhausted and starving and, really sacrificing a lot, making this weight loss or wellness journey feel hard, then we're not doing it right. Because there's ways to do things that actually feel like you're honoring your body where it is in that moment. And you can do it without feeling starving, without huff puff, intense exercise plans. You can do it feeling empowered by this new workout. And so that's what I hope people can understand today too.
Oh, I love that. So you hit several really big hot buttons in all of that. Yes, I am the same vintage as you, my friend. And I remember the Tai Bo, Billy Blanks, and yes, I might have also really enjoyed doing those, but I was younger at that point in time. They totally do not work for my 40 something stage of life now.
Well, it's
But
funny that you say that you liked it because I was still on like the on again, off again dieting and really using it as punishment. And I remember that Billy Blanks was like one of those videos that I got when I was barely eating. And I was like, this is what I'm going to do to work out. I got through about 10 minutes of it and I thought I was going to die. I felt lightheaded. I had to walk myself into the shower and have an incredibly cold shower. And then I did not exercise for like, I think at least a year after that. It was my off again that happened after that because it was just too intense for me at the time. That's where I started from, right? And now looking back, I could do it if I wanted to, but
yeah.
it's not, it's no.
See, I liked it because I ended up as a kickboxing martial artist. And so like I enjoyed it as like a conditioning kind of thing. I was already training that way. So like my experience with it was a little different, but I do know what you're saying though. Like the whole Kate Moss, very thin body type was in, and I am like the antithesis of that. I am built like Broomhilda, and I have the hips and the butt and the thighs and the big boobs. And I just was like the complete opposite. And I'm grateful looking back at it that I didn't starve myself because I think it would have really gone very poorly. But I did have a lot of like mental head game around not being that ideal body type. And so fast forward to our generation now coming into perimenopause and getting started on that menopausal journey, right? Because perimenopause is the years leading up to when your period starts to turn itself off. And then once you've been 12 months with no bleed, you are officially postmenopausal.
That's right. Exactly 1 year. You are the term menopause for like that 1 minute. That
Yes.
one like second of time you are menopausal. Before that, you're perimenopausal. It can be up to 10 years.
Yeah.
So you can start to, depending on you and your cycle, you could start to be in perimenopause as early as 35 for some people. For me, it was a couple of years ago, I'd say around 43, 42, that I started to really notice that things were starting to shift, and definitely the food and fitness formula shifts. There's been a few really big shifts. Another time was when I was 25, there was a big shift that had to be made. Now going into my like early 40s, that next shift. And what's really great is if you know how to shift things, if you can really listen to your body and say, something's not the same. There's nothing horribly wrong with me. It's just that something has shifted. And now how can I manage my nutrition? How can I manage my fitness to really live in harmony with my body where it is now. And that's what is so important. So we were talking about cardio, right? I'm not saying don't ever do cardio. I'm not saying that. And if it's something that you enjoy, if you still want to do your Billy boxing, Taibo, I actually ended up liking it a lot of years later when I was fit. But if you like that sort of thing and you want to incorporate it in, great. But if what you're doing is copious amounts of cardio and maybe the newest trends in eating, there's a lot of discussion on intermittent fasting that are huge protocols, like protocols where you're eating once a day or, barely eating. And I get people that are like, I'm not eating before my workout, things like that. Even if they did serve you in your 20s, they are going to make it a lot worse for you as you're going through perimenopause into postmenopause for a number of reasons that I'm sure we're going to go into today.
Yes, we absolutely are, because you touched on a really good point. So there were a couple of things that you said before. One is this martyrdom and sacrificial lamb idea, that it has to be hard. We have to kill ourselves for it. And if it's not grueling and we're not suffering, then like we're not doing it right. Right. That's, I think, just a female mentality thing, because it's the same thing with our to-do list, and it's the same thing with our schedule, and it's the same thing with so many other aspects of our life. And the reality is we're actually not supposed to suffer. And if it is suffering, it means you're out of balance. So I wanted to mention that because I thought that was a really great point that you made with that statement of, if it's not horrible, then you're not doing it right. This is not the US Marines.
Yes, yeah, exactly, right? But some of that's societal too. Think about The Biggest Loser, like Jillian Michaels yelling at people in their face, yes, you're not feeling it, do it harder. Like, as somebody who coaches, I don't care even if you're a man, a woman, however you identify, whatever the case may be, there's no way I'm going to look you in the face and scream at you, basically make you feel horrible for whatever weight size or capabilities you have. I just find that to be so disempowering, so horrible. It's not something that we need to be doing in order to find something that's actually going to make us feel good and strong and live our best second half.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, if people are yelling at you and you feel shame or guilt or whatever, either about the size that you are, the place that you're starting, your current capabilities, you're not going to stick with it.
No, there's no way.
It's like the rigid diet plan. The whole reason that they fail, I mean, some of them just make you nutrient deficient, and that could be an entire episode in and of itself. But like, the other piece of that is the restrictive part. If people don't feel like they can live at all, they're going to give up.
Yes, exactly. Like, oftentimes, and I can see that mentality is coming in when I start working with somebody. Like, I'll say something like, how about let's talk about protein, and maybe we can get some good healthy proteins in you to enhance lean muscle. And how about cottage cheese? I'll say, let's eat some cottage cheese. Do you want to do that? Oh, I hate cottage cheese, but if you tell me to do it, I'll do it.
There it is. Yeah. Yes. It's like, if you tell me to do it, I'll do it. And it's like, oh, but okay. So let's talk about the range of things that fall into that lean protein category. What could possibly work for you? I do the same thing with my clients. I send them a list and I go, here are all the things that are going to support your body constitution or help eliminate excess in your constitution. What of these things feels good to you?
Yes.
Those are the things to pull into your routine, because then it doesn't feel like a punishment.
Yes, exactly. So first, let me just talk about why protein is important and why not the copious amounts of cardio is important. And you might have touched on this in other episodes, but the reason that doing copious amounts of cardio, one, this is a great form of exercise for your heart, for example, or even your serotonin and your dopamine levels in your brain to make you feel better. But doing copious amount of cardio doesn't work lean muscle the same way that strength training or weight training does. And when you are doing copious amounts of cardio, when we do cardio, our cortisol levels rise, which is the stress hormone. People get scared about that, but we all need some cortisol. If we had no cortisol in our body, we would be on the floor, basically in a comatose state. We need cortisol. Yeah, so when you do cardio, your cortisol levels rise up higher than they usually are, but then after the workout is complete, they drop down to a new low, a new baseline instability. But what happens is when people are doing this cardio, especially when we are going through hormone changes, when we are really already taxed, our hormones are fluctuating during that perimenopause time. Cortisol is a major hormone affected. Our adrenals are trying to make some estrogen to help balance the estrogen, but they're also in charge of our cortisol. So it's a very taxed system at that point. So then you do this excessive amount of cardio, your cortisol levels rise, but they might not drop low. You might not sleep well. And what ends up happening is cortisol is very catabolic. It breaks down lean muscle. So if you're in this state where your cortisol is already high, then you're staying for extended lengths of time in these high cortisol levels. You're bathing in cortisol, breaking down lean muscle, and we need lean muscle. Not only with age do we need lean muscle because it declines with every decade of adult life. And some of the research shows that starts as early as 20.
That's
So
terrifying.
yes, right? Like that's it. So every decade after adult life, but when estrogen levels drop as well, estrogen helps build muscle. Like think about all the things it does to build. It's anabolic, which means it builds bone. It helps with bone density. It helps with our heart system. It helps build lean muscle. And so when the estrogen is dropping, we no longer have that building ability. We need to be creating a stimulus on our muscles that's going to say we're going to build even though we do not have the same estrogen levels. So it's so important to be doing weight training to enhance lean muscle without bulking up.
Oh,
Right?
I want to talk about that in a second. Keep going.
Okay. Yeah, because that's a big one. Women are really afraid to bulk up. You
Yeah.
cannot bulk up. You have 45-fold less testosterone than men do. Like it's not possible for us to get huge. And if you're doing specific bodybuilding, that's a whole different category. I highly doubt that's going to be the case of many of us, even me, and I love working out. But the point is that, okay, so you want to build lean muscle, you want to enhance your lean muscle for strength, quality of life, metabolic reasons to help with balancing hormones, the whole 9 yards, we need that lean muscle. And so that's where we also need to have protein with our weight training. So weight training or strength training needs to be incorporated more as your quality with higher protein sources. And it's not that you don't have to do cardio if you love it, but you can shift your focus from doing copious amounts of cardio and always feeling burnt out with it to weight training.
I love that. Okay, so protein, super important. People are going to ask, how much?
Yes. Okay. So again, it really is dependent on your age and your activity level, not to mention, well, those are the main two things, age and activity level. If you have certain hormone issues where you can have more protein or less, or if you've got certain disease like kidney disease, for example, you do have to be careful of protein content. But let's say on average for protein, you're looking at about 30 grams per meal. So anywhere from 90 grams and greater, I'd say in your day, if we're looking at a breakfast, lunch, dinner standpoint. But that's not exact. That's just a general. And again, it really depends. The more you exercise, the more during the exercise, that's when you're catabolic. When you're weight training, you are breaking down lean muscle so that after the workout is done, your body says, whoa, we have all these tears in our muscle now. She's hit us with all of this like different activity. We now need to repair ourselves to a new level of strength. And so your body's trying to take in the protein to create lean muscle and synthesize the protein, use the protein that you have. And so it's so important. The more you work out, you may need more protein.
I love that. Okay, so I just want everybody to pay attention to about 30 grams per meal because that's a hard one for a lot of people. We have a very carb-friendly Western American diet, right? So, like, our Western diet doesn't emphasize these things generally. And then you have some people, and again, this is kind of going into the lifestyle versus diet aspect of things, But when people are predominantly plant-based, yes, there are benefits for your longevity and the way that your body works, but you still need protein. And that is increasingly more difficult when you remove animal products from the equation. So I just want to kind of put a pin in that your target is about 90 grams a day.
Mhm. And if at the end, let's say you don't want to have, like, there's certain meal at breakfast, I do not have 30 grams of protein. I don't. But if you can think overall of having that amount of protein in a day, we do know that with age, it is better to have multiple meals that have protein in it. So it doesn't mean that, some people say to me, do I have to eat every 3 hours? I heard that's what I had to do before my metabolism. And no, you don't have to do that. But we know that if you can get in more meals that have protein in them, when you are hungry, if you can make sure those meals have some protein in them, then you're more likely to maintain lean muscle. So it's because our ability to use protein is much less, again, as we age. So we want to be able to give our body as much protein as we can so that it can continually use instead of, having these huge breaks where we don't have any source
I
except
love
our
that.
muscle. Yeah.
So the other piece that you had said in all of that, we were talking about the no, you cannot become a bodybuilder. Please do not panic aspect of things. I want to
If
talk
you
about
want to, that's great.
that's one of my aspirational goals for once I stop bleeding, because I really do like lifting heavy. And the fact that there'll be a little more testosterone in my equation by the time I get there, I'm actually kind of excited about that. Because again, remember I mentioned I built like Brunhilde. I totally have an endomorphic body. And I mean, I could deadlift a truck, but you'd never be able to look at me and go, oh, she's super strong. Like, I don't have any of that like definition that people strive for, because that's just not my body type. But I'll be able to see a little bit more of it when I go through this transition. So I'm a little more than slightly excited about that. But I think that one of the biggest hurdles that I hear and see with my clients about the suggestion of weight bearing activity and weight training activity is, one, they're afraid that they are going to look like men. And I love the fact that you already said, like, hi, your hormones won't allow that to happen. And I want you to dive into that in just a second. The other piece is the perimenopausal belly or the hormone belly, because that tends to be, and that softening, that little muffin softness that people start to get as they go through this transition. Those are the two things that I see as the biggest complaints and the things that send people to the gym.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And the belly fat, that's what my clients call it. Belly fat, they call it the pooch. They've said things like, I wish I could see my toes again in the shower because they're looking down. They're very honest and forthcoming about what they're feeling. And I can really empathize, because especially when you're going through menopause and those hormone shifts, you'll also probably notice a lot more bloat up to 2 weeks before your menstrual cycle, if you're still having your menstrual cycle, or maybe if it's off on no longer a regular time frame, you're still getting this bloating at strange times that come in. So first, let's figure out a little bit about what's going on. So as estrogen levels drop, estrogen once stored that fat in our hips and our thighs, and we no longer have that estrogen, so more fat is stored in our stomach area. And we know that this fat is insulin resistant, or it's basically, as our insulin levels are also shifting at that time, we tend to get more belly fat as well, because that tends to be an area that is an easy source of readily easy energy. So we start to hold more fat in that area. And then if you're adding on stress, higher cortisol levels, belly fat also tends to accumulate more and weight gain, and we become a lot more insulin resistant, because once again, when our cortisol is high, we used to have a high cortisol because we were running away from something, running away from the bear, right?
Right.
Or like the tiger or whatever it was. So we needed really fast energy sources to be able to run away from these stressors. And so we would have some belly fat because it's a very easy energy source for our body to get. We can use it right away. We also want to store it there so that we can use that energy right away. And so with these shifts in not only the drop of estrogen, but the cortisol and our insulin sensitivity is also shifting. There tends to be a lot more fat around the waist. And then you add on that bloat that comes in because you are during this time as the hormones are shifting, we are retaining more water at certain times. And you can gain up to 4 pounds just from water retention. So it's another reason why if you do decide you want to lose some weight, maybe throw out the scale and do another way of understanding how you're losing weight that does not involve the scale.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Thank you so much for saying that, because I do tell my clients that, because some of them, like when they use apps like Noom and things like that, they get really hyper focused on the number on the scale. And it's like, but your hormones will actually make that number vary so much. And particularly during this period of time. So, as a Chinese medicine practitioner, I talk about how the body moves in 7-year cycles. So every 7 years, our body has some sort of a shift. You mentioned 25. I thought that was very interesting. And then you mentioned a couple of years ago, meaning you were close to 42. 42 is where yin begins to decline, according to Chinese medicine. So, like, you were like spot on in terms of the way I've been trained, in terms of where like these big shifts start to happen, and they happen for different reasons at different times. 35 is a big one. So women, it's like 5 times 7 is, right? So that's how we can figure out where these benchmarks are. So
It's
7
funny you
times
mention
7.
that because at 35, though, I felt like I was at my peak
Yes.
physically, like the way that I felt strong. Everything just felt like it was really flowing well at 35.
Yes, and it did for me too. Those 7-year benchmarks, you can start to notice like little symptoms creep in 2 years on either side. So for me, I had that peak feeling at 35, and it wasn't until I was late 37, almost 38, that all of a sudden it was like this like downshift in a car where my stamina for life was different. And it wasn't huge. It was just like I would work the work week and maybe have an event that I was appearing at or speaking at or whatever on a Sunday. And then I would start to try to work like the same on Monday, like nothing had taken place over the weekend. And I remember thinking, wow, I'm way more tired than I thought I would be right now.
Oh,
Like, oh, that took a little more wind out of my
interesting.
sails than I thought. So 35 is that invitation for us to really evaluate our output versus our input, the balance between rest and play and work. And so that feeds. So as you're talking about like cortisol and stress, right? If we don't accept that invitation at 35, couple years on either side of 35,
Which many of us don't, by the way.
oh no, we totally don't, because we think we can drink and work and life the same way that we did as we were 25. And so then like we get to 40 and all of a sudden people reach out to me and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm having 2 periods a month. What happened?
Yeah.
Or I'm spotting in the middle of the month and I feel like I'm having my period in the middle of the month, but it never comes. And then 2 weeks later it comes.
For me, people reach out and they're like, all of a sudden I woke up, like, because they had their kids, their kids in their 30s or their 20s. And then they're like, all of the years were a blur. Everything was a blur. And so, like, you just had a child. You kind of know how this goes. You have kids. You're trying to take care of your kids. You're trying to work. You're doing all the things. All of your energy could easily go outwards. And it's really hard to start to notice what's happening with your body. So
Yes.
many of my clients, they were sleep deprived, that you just kept on going with that. They gained weight, and it was something that was just like, you know what? It's not something I can think about right now.
Yep.
And then in their 50s, that's the population I work with, in their 50s, something has shifted. Maybe the kids are a little bit older for them, or, it's a different stage of the career. It's that last leg of the career for them. And it's like all of a sudden something happens. They see a picture of themselves, or they feel that drop of energy. They feel achy. They're able to be present in their body and say, something doesn't feel right. I knew something was happening, but I wasn't really with it. And now I'm really starting to notice that thing now. And this is when I want to do something.
Well, and that veil of estrogen softens it. Like you notice it, but your energy is still very home and hearth, right? You're focused on pouring your chi, your vital energy into your family. And then where you're describing is 7 times 7 is 49. Okay. So this is where all of a sudden women start asking these questions like, what do I want to do with my life? I have literally put myself on the back burner this whole time in service of my family and everyone else around me. I want to go on girls' trips. I want to finish the degree I didn't finish. It actually is the energy. What you're describing is the energy that Chinese medicine recognizes as where we head in what they call coming into second spring, which is this menopausal. Isn't that beautiful?
It is. It is really beautiful.
Because it's all about this new beginning. And it's so funny because men go the opposite direction. They've all been external and they go through this thing called andropause, and they want to turn home and be more home and hearth. And they don't want to go and do so we still remain Mars and Venus, everybody. Sorry about that. As we get older, our energy changes and then our partner's energy changes if you're in a heteronormative relationship.
But you know what? One of the ladies that I interviewed for a summit before, she's a naturopath and she's very much into cycles, right?
Yeah.
She was sharing, and I thought this was really beautiful.
And now a break from our conversation for a partnership message. You've been told to hustle, grind, wake up early, and do more. But here's the truth. Rest is the most productive thing you can do. And the right kind of rest starts with Sia Silk Sleep Mask, your new sleep sanctuary. I've tried so many sleep masks, and I thought I just had to deal with the discomfort of slipping straps and light still getting through. But then I found this one, and I'm never going back. Made of 100% mulberry silk, it's the only mask that creates total blackout with its comfortable, oversized eye cups that don't smush my lashes while feeling weightless on my face. My sleep, next level. This isn't just a sleep mask, it's an investment in your nervous system. Sia Silk is a women-owned small business committed to high quality and sustainable luxury. Check out the show notes for the link to grab yours and rest like you mean it. And now, back to the show.
Women, we go through understanding what daily cycles are in life, right?
Yes.
Moon and sun cycles, we go through, but we can go through daily cycles in our hormones. We can be very happy and then sad and then mad all in one day. We've had this, we can go up to a day of these cycles. And so until from basically puberty all the way up to postmenopause, we have these daily cycles of emotions and feeling dictated by hormone and dictated by moon and sun. But once we get into postmenopause, we actually fall into the pattern of men. Men are linear, right? Men are linear and they go through more of cyclical monthly cycles or shifts, and their hormones are very balanced, if you will. You know, their moods aren't dictated by the moon's pull. There's none of that. It's very linear. And so women, we are the only ones that get to experience both worlds. Men can never experience that. They can only experience the linear. Even when they go through andropause, andropause is this drop in testosterone, but it's, again, many men don't even realize that's what they're going through, this shift. They're not going through these up and down cycles like women have. So as women, we've been able to experience both worlds. And I think that's wonderful. We're the only ones that get to experience that.
Well, and I think it's really fascinating too, because it informs, and this is a little bit of a tangent, but it informs the communication between partners too. So women start asking questions about, well, what do I want to do with the rest of my life? This is a new beginning for me because, like you said, it's a new chapter. You're now moving through the world in a more linear way. Your energy is a little different than it was before because you don't have all of the depth of the same peaks and valleys that you had before. As that veil of estrogen lifts, You experience your world in a very different way. You are invited to let go of things that don't serve you and really step into alignment with what feels good to you in your body and so on and so forth. And that's a really beautiful thing. Men start asking questions like, is this as good as it is going to get? Because they
Mhm.
come face to face with their mortality. So,
Mm.
like, it's a very different experience for both. But in terms of hormone expression, that even keeledness can really open the door for a lot of other beautiful gifts that you can experience in these later years. And Western culture demonizes age in women.
Mm.
I so admire Jamie Lee Curtis. She's fucking gorgeous. Can we just
Mhm.
say that? She's
Yeah.
been gorgeous her whole life, but I think she's even more beautiful as she steps into this phase of her life because
Yeah.
she is wearing the aging process, and this is just what it is. And I'm
Yep.
not having any body modification done. I
Yeah.
am getting older and that is okay.
Yeah.
But she's embracing it with all of this energy and realness that I think women need to see because
Yeah.
we've always valued youth and beauty. And there's always been this like, oh, be careful, he doesn't trade you in for a younger model. But there
Yeah.
is wisdom and grace and so many beautiful things that come with age. And we haven't really been taught to look at it that way. We've looked at it like the kiss of death.
Well,
And
not only that, that we're no longer worthy. I think
yes,
that
that's
as
true.
women, we've been taught, if you're not young and pretty and a certain weight, then you're out to pasture.
Yes.
Like that's it. You're frumpy. Like I've had clients say to me, I'm a frumpy old woman now. Like nobody wants to look at
Mm,
me. And to hear that, it hurts my heart. Like
yeah.
you are valued and you're worthy. And I think this new stage where women are coming forward and, like I know Jane Fonda has had a lot of work done. She has expressed that she felt a lot of those, those pressures growing up and from her father, like
Yeah.
like her father. And so she was saying like it took her till her 80s, but she was like, I'm not getting any work done anymore. I'm letting my hair go gray. I am embracing this. And I wish I had done that way sooner. It was just a different time when that wasn't considered to be okay to do
Yeah.
that. And I think we're coming into this world where people are starting to embrace who they are and
Mm.
stand up for themselves as well. So I'm hoping that more and more women come forward and say, this is our time now. We are going to go through this second half as healthy and strong and vibrant as we
Mm.
can possibly feel.
Well, I mean, and there's millions of us that are hitting this benchmark. So we have an incredible power right now to change that narrative. That's one of the big reasons I wanted to have you on the show. Is this show is all about changing the narrative and shaking up what we have accepted as normal and we have normalized when it's actually not normal, it's a social construct. And it's
Yes.
like you can be devastatingly gorgeous at any age. And I can tell you, like, as an early 40s something, I'm already noticing what you were just saying. Your clients are like, oh, I don't turn heads anymore.
Mhm.
Like, I'm already noticing I'm starting to blend into the woodwork, and I'm in my early 40s, and I don't think that I look old at all, but the energy begins to shift. And so, this kind of being able to exercise and work out, like we had talked offline about the sandwich generation. Do you want to
Yes.
talk a little bit about that? Because I feel like that dovetails really beautifully into this point in the conversation.
Yes. So I want to make it clear that we're talking about a lot of negative things too, as in when I'm about to talk about the sandwich generation, what I'm about to say might sound a little negative, but there is a silver lining and it's a very positive thing. So what happens is that as we're entering into the second half, and I'm actually going to say from 40 on, you enter
Yeah.
into this second half of life, you're starting to be ready to take care of you, to put you first, to figure out how to exercise or eat and do all of the healthy things and find time for you, even if it's 10 minutes. But it's also a time when our parents are aging. And so we start to take care of them. And for a lot of the parents, they're ill. Like they have to go into homes. As the kids now, we are the ones taking care of them. We have to step up as if we were the parents, doing all of the financial, figuring out what if they have Alzheimer's, they have to have their financial shifted over, go into a home, perhaps have them at the home. You're taking care of them. They might have had a fall. They could be fully dependent on you. Plus, at the same time, you could have kids, right? Or kids that
Yes.
are, even if they're a little bit older, they still need you, right? So you are sandwiched in the middle between taking care of your parents and still having kids and probably still working on your career. You're trying to do it all, but it's also supposed to be this time that you're going into your second half, and it's supposed to be a celebration. It's supposed to be something that is for you. So that can feel really taxing in a lot of different ways. I mean, I don't know how it is for you. My mom, she's 81 and she's still really healthy, but there are vulnerabilities that I see sometimes. Like, so we ended up moving here so my mom could downsize, and we have the home, so it's 2 units. So she lives in the house with us, but she has to ask us for things that before she had no problem doing. You know, things that like I think it's like a 5K, which is 10-pound huge bag of bird seeds. And she's like, she ended up hurting her leg. So she's like, I need you to take it down for me. And my mom is not like that. She's very independent. She's actually pretty fit. It's just this one leg that's acting up. But you see that vulnerability, that moment when it's like she needs us in order to help her out. And almost as though, and maybe maybe there's this Chinese medicine shift you could talk about too, but basically she starts to revert in some psychological ways as if she was a child. Like my mom is a retired therapist, and anytime I had a problem, I would go to her and there would be this rationale and this discussion and this logical understanding of point A to point B. Like, why don't you try doing this? And, oh, I'm sorry you're feeling that way. And it's almost as though sometimes now, like, I'll say, oh, this is how I'm feeling. Why? What is that? Like,
Yeah.
it's this shift that's happening. And I start to see the roles reverse in certain ways. And again, my mom is very, like, she's a sound in her mind. She does have a bum leg right now. She's going to physiotherapy for, but there are moments like that when I'm like, things are shifting, like
Yes.
very much shifting. And then if you've got kids on top of that, you're also dealing basically with 2 types of different caregiving roles. And that puts a lot of stress on the body. It's very overwhelming. And then you're supposed to take care of you as well. So it kind of puts that on a back burner, or it has to be that it's again, it's all about the quality. What can you do in 10 minutes? What can you do to help you feel stronger, take care of you while you're also dealing with these things, so that you are still able to take care of them and do what you need to do and be strong enough and energized enough and not get lost as this is going on.
I love that. Yeah, it's totally a shift. I remember my mom talking about that with my grandmother when she started seeing more, and that's exactly how she worded it too, more childlike behavior. Not that I mean, and my grandmother was sound mind right close to the end. She passed away in her 90s, but like it was the same idea that the way she responded to certain things shifted and was different. And that really signaled both of my parents, wow, okay, we're going to have to approach this conversation differently. And that all takes mental energy. So when we come back to this cortisol aspect, there are lots of things that are vying for your time and attention. And I mean, I look at where I'm at. I just had a baby and I'm in my 40s,
Yeah.
right? So, like, you're seeing not only the demands of aging parents in terms of supporting, and I say demands, I don't mean that in a negative way, just that they do require a little more time and attention and support. And I've seen a little bit of this starting to shift with my own parents. So I know that it's coming at the same time that I'm going to have a toddler running around in my house. And so, like, there's a lot of people who are finding this collision right now, and that does create additional cortisol. So, like, when we're going through perimenopause, it's a little bit like going through puberty, right? Your body's coming online with all of the hormones in order to be a cycling body. Well, now we're coming offline and our hormones are shifting. We're equally as emotionally sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
We're equally as sensitive to stress. And it's just, I think it's kind of rude that Mother Nature puts teenagers and perimenopausal women together in the same home because it's like a ticking time bomb for
Oh
everybody to be
my
frustrated.
gosh.
And I'm like living all of those stages simultaneously right now in my own home. So like I can really empathize where people find themselves in this continuum, and being able to exercise efficiently is the word that I'm
Mhm.
gonna use, because it's like what you had said, the point that you had made about, like, what can I do in 10 minutes?
Yes.
So, what kinds of weight training do you feel are most supportive for women that find themselves in this age and stage of life? And what can be done with more limited time to be able to support the end goal health-wise so that they can rise to the social and situational challenges that they're starting to find with all of the things that they're managing?
Yes. Okay. So first, give yourself grace, right? Which is a hard one
It
because you're trying
is.
to do all the things and take care of all the people. And next, we talked about weight training. I would definitely start there because you can do weight bearing exercises. So, strength training exercises that don't require any equipment at all. And you can do a few of those exercises, hit as much muscle as possible, and it can take you less than 10 minutes to do. So if you're doing a squat, you sit down and you stand up and you do that 15 times. Anytime you're about to get up and do something, you can get in a few sets throughout your day if that's where you're starting and you've hit your entire muscle in your body. Like basically from head to toe, your legs are going to be working, your core muscles, your stomach muscles have to be working, your back. You have to have good postural muscles to get into that position. You're working all the muscles. So I do something like that, and I do something like a plank, which is basically, you might have seen it, it looks like you look like a table. You're on your forearms or on your hands. For my over 50 clients, majority of times, no matter where they are, I'll get them on their forearms because there's a lot, especially if they've been using the computer, a lot of wrist issues. They feel it in the wrists a lot and the shoulders. So let's take those out. But if you're just getting started, you can elevate your body. So you can elevate yourself on a desk or on, a cabinet or something like that. So you're higher up. So the exercise is easier. And then as you get stronger, you can go down to the ground and make it feel easy, yet hard, yet doable, if you will. Like, so basically you want to feel like you've done a little something, but you can still go on with the rest of your day. And you want to make sure that the next day you wake up and you're not so sore that you can't do your activities that you need to do for the rest of the day. That's how I would start with somebody who is really struggling with time. And it's so hard to get back a moment of them time. They just need to start with something. And that's where I'd start.
Oh, I love that. That feels very manageable without a fundamentally huge change in the lifestyle. Because I think that's where some people really get hung up, is like they think that they have to like go to the gym 6 days a week, and they think that it has to be an hour every time they go. And how am I going to carve out that kind of time? I already have all of these other things that are on my plate, and I already feel overtapped and stressed and all of this. And the thing is, like, being able to build in squats when you get up from a chair, like, think how many times you get up and down out of a chair during the day. Like,
Mhm.
that's manageable.
Yes. Yeah. And that's what I always tell people. I say, because people will come to me, we talked a lot about what happens, those myths that people think. So they'll come to me, they'll say, I want to get fit, I want to get healthy, maybe I want to lose weight, if that's a part of what you would like to do for your health. And they say, I want to do something every day. All the more power to you if you have that time. But I really feel like you're setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
not sustainable.
it's not sustainable. And what ends up happening is one of the days gets missed. You start to feel a bit guilty about it, but you're like, okay, I'll do it tomorrow. That next day also gets missed. Oh, okay, I'll do it the next day. You feel really guilty because you missed those other 2 days. Oh, should I start from the beginning again? Should I go all the way back to where I was? And then it kind of starts, you do it, and then it's these days again. So it's this horrible feeling of guilt or shame because you weren't able to do it. And at the same time, you're like, oh, now I've lost everything I've done. It's a whole pile of negative emotions. The reason that I love strength training or weight training so much is because 2 to 3 days a week, when you begin, that's all you need. And if we talked about doing those 2 exercises 2 to 3 days a week, that's probably less than 20 minutes in a week. Like you can find 20 minutes in a week, right? That's like, if you were to break that down to, just doing it 2 times, that's 2 10-minute sessions and you're done for the week. And if you do more because you enjoy your walk, or if you are more active and you do enjoy a run or something like that, great. But you don't have to. Start off with the lowest hanging fruit. And once you've mastered that, you can move up.
I love that. Oh, you mentioned walking. I get a lot of questions around how many steps should I be walking and how long? Because, we're human Tamagotchis at this point, and we have all of the fitness trackers and Aura rings and all this other stuff in order to track all of our biofeedback. What should people be striving for during this phase of life that doesn't upset the cortisol apple cart? Because again, we've talked about all of these stressors that are affecting our cortisol level. So we want exercise to help with the variability in that cortisol expression rather than just be another layer on top of the stress cake, because that's only going to fuel that cortisol belly part.
Yes. Yeah. So first off, I do have a Fitbit and I love analytics. That's one of my things. I love it. I could look at my Fitbit analytics, and I've got a Polar Beat, which is a heart rate monitor we didn't even get into high intensity interval training, but for, seeing what the heart rate zones are there. And, I have an app that tells me when I've my strength training workouts, I put in how much weight I've done, because I love that sort of thing. That's my personality. I like to see last week, I lifted 190 pounds and this week I could do 200 or something like that. I'd like to see that. And I also, when we're talking about women that are still in their cycle or that are going through fluctuations, I really love my analytics as I'm in perimenopause, because I'm like, I could go to the gym and be like, I'm floored. It feels like the energy is draining out of my muscle, even if I slept well. So then I like to make notes of that. I'm like, what's going on? And then it could be a week later, even if not scheduled, my period comes.
Yes.
It's my hormones telling me that something's different and I need to shift what my workout is. So I'm starting to see these structures and patterns. And even when we're going through times when things are more chaotic in the structure and pattern, we can still kind of see how at certain times maybe we felt that our muscles weren't working properly, or were more fatigued, or feeling more bloated. So I like to have that. I like to write it down. I like to have a log, and I like to see what those patterns are. And for me, I can step outside of any emotion that comes with it. So it's not like, oh, what's wrong with me? Why do I feel so tired? What is the problem with me? And I could say, oh, it's this time of the month. Well, yeah, okay. I bet you at this point I'm going to get my period at this time, or, oh, I didn't get it last time at this time. But, so it gives me some guidelines, no longer attach emotion to what I'm doing. But I do get that many people, they feel like you were talking about with metrics, like with the scale, they start to really feel like, oh, I'm getting obsessed with that and the numbers, and it's really hard. So if that's you, don't do it by all means. The reason that I like the Fitbits is, for me, it's also validating those very busy women, because what ends up happening is I get a client that maybe I see at 9 in the morning, and she's like, I'm so tired. I don't know what's going on. I feel like I should be able to do this workout. I haven't done anything all day. I'm like, can you tell me what your Fitbit steps are?
Yeah.
And she's like, oh yeah, I've already done 10,000. It's 9 in the morning and you've done 10,000 steps, and now you want to do a full workout. That's why you're exhausted. Cut yourself a break. You're overdoing it.
Yeah.
And so I like having that sort of analytics. But if your only goal is to hit 5,000 steps a day, or 10,000 is what the standard would be, all in all, it's not really going to do much for you. It's active movement, which is great. You don't just want to be lying on the couch, but it's not going to help with your VO2 max system, which is your lung capacity. It's not going to help balancing the insulin levels or the hormone insulin that much, like as if you were to do a short bout of high intensity exercise. Like when I do a high intensity exercise and I decide what I'm going to do with that, and this is me, is run really fast and go all out for my high intensity interval training, that the whole session lasts about 10 or 15 minutes. That's it. I look at my Fitbit and it's like 2,000 steps. I just did something in that time frame that gave me more of a hormonal balancing benefit for blood sugar and for overall like dopamine and serotonin level, like feeling outside of the brain fog, getting energized, getting clear and sharp, and also really helping to burn some of the fat that accumulates with that belly fat that we talked about. And that won't register on my Fitbit as barely doing anything. When I do strength training, I could do a full strength training workout that when you have enhanced lean muscle, when I'm sitting here with you, I'm burning more fat. I have created a better quality of life. I've enhanced my bone density. I've done so much more. And my Fitbit will say I'm at 1,000 steps, maybe from a full workout. So in that respect, we can't use it as a be all and end all way of exercising. Like we have to hit this exact certain number or we haven't done anything, because the things that you do that are the best quality are probably not going to register as steps.
I love that. I love that. Okay, so that dovetails beautifully into how would you support somebody to get started? Because I tend to get questions like, how many days a week should I be doing this? How many steps should I be getting? Do I have to get rid of cardio entirely? Or, and when they say cardio, I find that the trend is steady state, meaning for people who aren't familiar with that term, they're talking about like you're consistent running at the same pace, or they're like the activity that they're choosing to do keeps them at this elevated rate, but it's like the same the whole way through. They're not trying to punctuate which is the high interval training that Alicia is talking about. So if you had to like just give a ballpark, and I know this all ends up being very specific to people's health conditions, but I just want to kind of put a frame around in people's brains, because we're talking about like thinking about exercise in a new way. And obviously, I would highly recommend you reach out to Alicia, because she can give you a very in-depth, nuanced look at your personal circumstances. As an Eastern medicine practitioner, I do not believe one size fits all for anybody.
Me neither. No.
But I feel like just to take some of that veil of overwhelm off of it. If you were to like just broad strokes, like this would be a really healthy balance. 2 days doing this, a couple of days doing this, a week kind of thing. What would you tell somebody?
Okay. So the first thing, let's first get into this. If right now you're doing nothing and you're listening to this, you're just starting. And I mean, you're not doing any aerobics. You're worried, oh my gosh, if I do aerobics now I'm going to gain more weight or feel more worse, or my hormones are going to be off. Or if you're not weight training at all, that's where you are. You are starting from the beginning. When you are starting from the beginning, you are at the best place to be, because any change you make to your physical activity is going to make a difference. So if you are really stressing, like, oh, I really want to go for a walk, go for the walk. If you want to lift some weights, you need to have a stimulus that feels hard yet doable. Start at a higher number of repetitions, like 15 repetitions, and do it like we talked about 2 times to 3 times a week, and that's it. So I always like to start with people, do 2 to 3 times a week of weight training. And only if on your off weight training days, you want to walk, you want to do your steady state Zumba or Aquafit or, run or whatever else it may be, go ahead and do it. But you don't have to. Start with the lowest hanging fruit. And then once you've done that, if you're like, I have done my 2 to 3 days a week of weight training, that's feeling really good now. I've decided I want to go for walks because I really love that. The question is, can you pick 2 other days that you can maybe during your walks find a hill that turns it into HIIT? So you're going to go up that hill a little bit faster and your heart rate, you're going to feel out of breath, or stairs. You can go upstairs. If your knees are bad, Maybe you don't do that. Maybe when you're lifting weights, you can pick up the pace a tiny bit with lighter weights for just a quick, not your full weight training workout. It's a different thing, but just something to get your heart rate up a little bit higher for 2 other days. That's what I would do next.
I like that. That feels manageable, right? And the time that you're investing in this, especially in this stage of life,
Mhm.
is literally an investment in your future health and longevity.
Yes.
So, because this is where that like guilt, shame, martyr mentality comes in.
Mm.
I have this whole list of things to do. How could I possibly put myself on the priority list? But here's the thing, if you want to be able to show up for all of the things and all of the people and all of the situations that are currently demanding so much of your time, how can you do that when your health begins to decline? You
Yes.
can't. Health is wealth, right?
Yes, it
So
is. Yep.
these little investments of 20 minutes, a little bit of weight bearing activity, all of these kinds of things is literally pouring into the bank
Mhm.
and your savings, right? You're padding
Yeah.
your savings account for when you need to be able to do all the rest of the things.
And I think we need to unmask the shame. And what I mean is we need to call it out for what it is. So, Brene Brown, I love Brene Brown. One of the things that she says that really resonates is shame cannot live when spoken, and it cannot live when met with empathy. And so if you are feeling ashamed because you missed that workout, because you ate 2 pieces of birthday cake, because you didn't do your strength training that day, then find somebody you can confide in and tell them that's how you feel. And I really hope that it's somebody that, like us, that meets you with empathy, because it's not your fault that you missed that day. It is a part of life. There's no shame in that. You will have moments when those fire emergencies come and they are going to throw the plan off track. You get back up after that emergency is done, and the next time you can, you work it out again. And if you go on a vacation, you do not need to, pack your weights with you or make sure. I get so many people that are like, I'm going to do my workouts every day that I'm gone. And I'm like, okay, but if you don't, I hope that you relax. You get that nap in the afternoon that you've been dying to have. You get that vitamin D with the sun that you wanted, and you can just enjoy and activate that parasympathetic system. No, I'm going to work out. I'm going to do the thing. That's what they say. And then they come back and they're like, I feel guilty. I didn't do the workout. Don't feel guilty. I'm glad you told me that, but hopefully me meeting you with empathy and saying that's okay. That's a part of the journey. This is a lifelong dedication, and it doesn't mean you hit a number on the scale and never leave that number. It doesn't mean that, lift a certain weight size and every single day you're doing that and you never fall off track. Not one person that I know of, at least that's got a balance to their life, that has days where they don't go on vacation and not exercise or eat the cake or have emergencies that come up and the plan fails. It's
Yeah.
all a part of it.
Oh, I love that. I think that dovetails really beautifully into if people want that kind of empathetic, supportive approach in their exercise journey, whether it's just beginning or you've been an avid active person, but now you're starting to see that the demands of your body are different. How can people reach you, Alicia?
Well, thank you for asking. One of the best ways, we talked about how are you supposed to eat and exercise as you shift with age. And so I do have a masterclass, a free masterclass that's called the 3-phase food and fitness formula. Every woman over 50 needs to know to melt away the midlife, midsection, increase strength, and achieve optimal health. And what I really talk about isn't only how to eat and exercise, but it's how to blend it to you and your lifestyle so that you do feel empowered to find this healthy journey, this strength journey for life. It's a lifelong thing. So I'll give you the link to the masterclass, or you could go to aliciajoneshealthyliving.com is my website, and YouTube. I'm on there. There's beginner workouts, intermediate stuff. We talk about hormone shifts. We talk about, if you've got brain fog, body aches, belly fat, the whole 9 yards. So you can go to YouTube and it's all there.
Awesome. Wonderful. Well, as you could tell, I have tons of questions based on things that clients bring to me on a regular basis. Thank you so much for joining us today, Alicia. We're definitely going to have to do this again because I already have so many questions that I could continue to ask you and pick your expert brain because this is becoming a really hot topic because there are so many women that are stepping into this phase of life and going, wow, my body doesn't do what it used to do, or it doesn't feel the same as it used to. Now what?
Yeah, we're feeling validated because it
Mm.
used to be that we'd go to the doctor, say, I'm feeling exhausted or I don't feel as strong. Oh, it's just a part of aging, the doctors would say. It's just a part of getting older.
They still
Suck
say
it up.
that.
It's just a part of getting older, suck it up. That's it. But now, like, we have this menopause revolution. It's excellent. We're starting to learn how our hormones, how we need to honor those hormone shifts and what is going on with our body and how to live in harmony with our body. And thank goodness that is being spoken now.
Oh, I love that. And I love the work that you're doing. It is such a well needed resource in this phase of life. I will have all of Alicia's information in the show notes. So please check out her free masterclass, check out all of her beautiful offerings, and we will absolutely be doing a part 2. So stay tuned for our next conversation. Thank you again so much, Alicia, for joining us on the show.
Thanks for having me. I had a blast.
Thank you for joining me for another episode of Reproductive Rebel. Reproductive Rebel is recorded by certified peri-steam hydrotherapist and acutonics practitioner, herbalist, and Chinese nutritional therapist Adrienne Irizarry of Moon Essence LLC. If you are interested in setting up an appointment for one-on-one support, ordering from our store, or checking out our course offerings, visit our website at moonessence.life. Be sure to subscribe to our newsletter and get insider information on upcoming events and offerings. Join the conversation. Like and follow us at Moon Essence Me on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn. Your voices make this program possible. Thank you all for your continued support.